listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to a post-match recording of Achtung Millwall in the aftermath of what was a very disappointing 1-0 loss at the Riverside Stadium, Middlesbrough, just a few moments ago in actual fact. Joining me to mull over an overall a drab performance for me for Bayern Mill is the man himself, Mr. Neil Fissler. How are you, Neil?
Well, I was doing all right until I watched that game of supposed football. It's 90 minutes of your life we ain't going to get back. I think it's a harsh reality check of anybody that thinks we're going up needs to book themselves into the Maudsley Hospital, don't they?
It's difficult, isn't it? There was no want of effort, but we were second best, and that is a hard truth. I thought Middlesbrough clearly started off the brighter of the two sides. We played Styles in today rather than Saville. I'm not sure that was the best choice with the benefit of hindsight. I know that's always crystal clear, but when Saville did come into the game later on, at least we looked a bit more cohesive and a bit brighter. But going back to the course of the game, I thought the Borough, they started brightly and didn't really let us off the hook. We didn't really carve out any across the whole game, any great number of chances in that match, did we? We had possession in moments, but nothing came of it. It is hard to see a promotion challenge with this squad unless we're going to spend, big in the current window, which so far looks pretty quiet from the Mill perspective.
Mate, I'm not a great one for statistics, but when I was waiting for you, I had the iFollow on, and it showed that we had no clear-cut chances in 90 minutes, yeah?
No.
How in the hell we've got into a position to challenge for the playoffs with the deficiencies in the squad that we've got, it's absolutely unbelievable. I'm going to take issue. I think there was no desire there today. It was.
Did you not think? No.
No, it was absolutely awful. Yeah, from start to finish. Yeah. The entire first half, it was like one of those games you used to play as a kid, attack against defence. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we were just letting them come onto us wave after wave after wave after wave. Yeah, well, okay, they didn't look much better than us, to be quite frank. Yeah,
they looked handy in the first half. I thought they showed their best early shots, chances. I'm just going through my notes here, listeners. I felt we were clinging on across the whole of the first half. I do agree that they weren't brilliant. I don't think they're the best team in what is a pretty, there was a result earlier on. I think was it Rotherham beat? Was it Blackburn? They beat by 4 goals.
3-4, something like that.
And it's a cliche, Neil, to say it's the most open. I think it's the most average league in that sense, because there aren't any major standout sides, including ourselves. Because today just demonstrated that when it comes to match-winning game changers, if our main men aren't on form, we just don't look. We don't have any spark in the side. Effort-wise, I don't know. We seem to be chasing the ball a lot this afternoon, and that's not going to get you promoted, mate, is it?
No, but let's face it, in that first half, I think the only chance in that entire first half that we created was, I think, Zian Fleming went through midfield, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he shot tamely at the goalkeeper, which summed us up, really, wasn't it?
There was a break. Didn't we get on the break, and didn't it clip off the heel of Callum Styles when we had a 4-man break going from a Borough attack? We had a lot of moments like that where you think potentially something could happen here, but it didn't. And there's been a lot of that play this season, really. Now you're right about being so high up the table for a team that doesn't take chances particularly well.
Yeah, but doesn't create them. Yeah, no. you looked at it. You look at it. Bradford, I called him earlier on. But Bradshaw, he huffed and he puffed. Didn't get anywhere. Usual kind of effort from him, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Fleming, I think, flatters to deceive. I think he'll either look very, very good or very, very poor. Yeah, and today I've got to be honest. He actually created our best two chances. Vogel Slammer was absolutely anonymous, wasn't
nondescript
he?
today.
Yeah,
I would say.
absolutely awful performance from him. You look at the midfield. I thought Styles wasn't as good as he was a couple of weeks ago.
No, agree.
Uh, Billy Mitchell didn't have his best game, did he? Quite rightly taken off.
We had a few players under par. I thought Murray Wallace looked a little bit out of his depth out there today, Neil.
Yeah, he looks like a non-league defender. Let's be quite frank. Yeah, today he looked like a non-league defender, and it says an awful lot that that when Cooper went off,
Mm,
he brought on Saville and left Cresswell on the bench. That says
yeah,
an awful lot about his future at this football club, doesn't it? If he brings on a midfielder and shuffles a player who has been awful all season, let's be honest. How in the hell Scott Malone, when he's fit, can't get near this side? Well, we all love Murray, don't we? But
we do.
we have to be honest. He looked like a non-league player today.
He looked out of
That
his depth today. I mean,
yeah,
the goal. I think there was an error. The ball. I can't remember who made the error. If it was Billy or Styles in midfield. The ball was released in midfield, and they came down the right wing, and Murray had a couple of goes and was just basically bullied off the ball by the Borough winger there. I've got to put that down as an error on Murray Wallace. The ball then came in. He cut in, didn't, inside and slammed home.
yeah.
No real opposition for that move. And I don't know about you, Neil, but as soon as we went one goal behind, I was kind of waiting for the moment where the first goal goes in for Middlesbrough. And as soon as we went that one goal behind, I just couldn't see us. It looked like a mountain. One goal looks like a mountain this afternoon for us. So we never really looked like we were going to get anything out of it. Although we did create a bit more, a bit more fluidity once Saville came in. What do you think? That you mentioned Jake Cooper getting injured? He kind of slammed down onto the base of his back, and then I thought he could have gone off a touch earlier there because he was clearly in discomfort. And he sat down. There was a corner where he almost sat down, almost said to the bench, "Take me out." But we just seemed to take our time on that, and I thought the obvious move was to bring Cresswell in, but that sometimes Gary Rowett's decision making is very hard to read. I don't understand the delay nor the substitution choice there.
I'm wondering if it was more Jake Cooper's bravery rather than
Yeah, yeah.
rather than Gary Rowett's indecision.
Trying
But
to
he
run it
is
off.
slow. Yeah, but
Yeah,
he is slow. But you know what kind of player Jake Cooper is? It takes a lot to drag Jake Cooper off a football pitch, doesn't it? Sometimes, but I guess a manager needs to be a bit proactive, or a doctor, or whoever makes the decisions on the sideline as to if a player's fit or not to come off. Yeah,
yeah. He
you
tried
just
to run it
wonder.
off, but
Yeah,
it weren't happening.
and there was some suggestion on the commentary. I don't know if you picked up on it,
Hmm.
that maybe the injury hampered him getting across to make the challenge.
Slowed him certainly. I mean,
Yeah,
I actually thought he'd been one of our standout players. In what has been a difficult day for Millwall generally. I thought Cooper and Hutchinson made some good defensive blocks, interceptions, and tackles. He got injured, so then obviously that's slowed him immediately. I personally believe he could have come out before the goal, but there we are. He
yeah.
didn't.
No, well, I think you're right. Actually, yeah. Well, I think it was obvious 2 or 3 minutes before that he couldn't carry on,
Yeah,
and
there we
and
are.
bravery kept him in it, and it ended up costing us a goal. Yeah, but apart from that, and Murray Wallace's non-league defending.
I also think, we have to call on this show. We call it as it is. I don't think it was Danny Mack's best day either. I think he got caught a few times. Murray Wallace certainly had a mare this afternoon, and we showed very little in truth going forwards. It got a bit better once Saville came in, Neil, and I think their Styles went into a left back position, didn't he, on the left side? And I actually thought we looked better still with the arrival of Romain Esse, who came in and looks like he's got the X factor to him. It's very early days for the boy, but he does at least give us some hope for something with a bit of flair and touch and positions. There wasn't an awful lot of that today. There wasn't a touch today. Our control was very poor overall, I felt.
Yeah, but it says a lot for how poor it was that we seem to be pinning our hopes to a certain extent on a 18, 19-year-old coming off the bench who's played under 10 games. It says, but it says an awful lot that he came on and
Yeah, that was our most hopeful moment. I mean,
yeah.
there was a great run. I mean, Zian, you're right. I mean, he blows hot and cold for us a little bit. When he's hot, he's very hot. But when he's off, he's very off. I mean, he had a free kick at one point in the second half, I think it was, that
Oh, that was embarrassing.
sailed wide. I mean, really, you'd have been better just lumping it into the mix and going for the Murray Wallace or Sean Hutchins to get on the end of a header. But there it is, 1-0. It rightfully finished. I mean, I can't argue with the result. We never really we huffed and puffed, but we never really did enough to get anything out of the game. It leaves us in 9th position again amongst a dense pack of sides all the way down to 3 points now below us, covering all the way down to Reading in full team. So it's a very tight division. I don't know. We're in the midst of a transfer window, Neil, but it seems to be more like a one-way revolving door going out, but no one coming in, doesn't it? We don't seem to be closing any deals. I thought we might have something in place up front or wherever on the left side, perhaps in time for this game today. But we certainly seem to be players seem to be leaving and nothing coming inwards at the moment. It's quite a strange situation.
Mate, something I want to come back to in the game involving Fleming was, I know you like to see players staying up on their feet, but I think he could have gone down and got us a penalty in the second half, couldn't he? Because
that was on that run he made, didn't he? When he cut
yeah,
into
and then he
the
pulled the
box.
ball back to Honeyman. But to come back onto your point about the transfer window, it's worrying, to be honest, Nick. You look at it and you wonder if we've actually got any desire to get promoted. If we just make a half-hearted, ham-fisted attempts at it.
It's a
I think
strange one. I mean, I was
if we were serious about promotion, we'd have addressed the deficiencies already. We've let we've let a striker go. In fact, we've let 2 strikers go.
yeah,
We've
we
let
have. Yeah,
obviously Benicophobe, who incidentally scored on his debut today.
did he in
Yeah,
Dubai?
for Hatter, and we let young Isaac Alofi go. And
Yeah.
and as you said, it's a one-way street, and it just makes you wonder: is it going? Are we? Yeah, but the later we get into this window, is it going to be like this time last year, where he goes out and he makes panic loan signings? I think he bought in Luke Freeman and Ollie Burke, didn't he, this
That's
time last
right.
year?
Ineffective.
And there was something,
Yeah.
they had the panic aspects about them, and you just wonder if it's going to be the same. We keep on getting linked with players. How serious we are? Is Jamal Lowe going to pick us above anybody else? Maybe not. Is that Rotherham winger that were allegedly
Ogbene, yeah.
that we're allegedly interested in? Something actually noticeable today
Mm,
was the strength of the benches. They bought on Cameron Archer that they've just loaned off Aston Villa,
mm.
and we pin our hopes on George Evans and Ramon Eze. It
No,
says
no
an
Tyler
awful.
Bury, which will please some out there. But I was injured. I'm just looking at the South London press yesterday, saying he had a hip injury, so there's a doubt. And Malone obviously seems to spend large amounts of time injured. He has a cut to his foot. Must be like doesn't heal or something. 'Cause he's been out for ages. Yeah, I mean, the reason I referred to the South London, Neil, is there's a big splash yesterday, and we've said this many times, and it's nothing new for the listeners or you and me, but the stories about John Berylson pumping in 100 million since he came into £100 million into Millwall in 2006-07, and this season's loss is 13 million. I mean, we've said this, the debate we've said many times, but it depends. On the one hand, we tick over, and John, thankfully, covers these losses at 13 million, which, I was talking to somebody yesterday. He said, that's not much. I said, it's not much in championship terms, but it's 13 million pound more than if you haven't got any money, which is, so, we're obviously grateful for that, because otherwise there'd be no Millwall potentially. We're looking at Scunthorpe's situation at the moment. But equally, unless you bring in the kind of players, the quality of players that like some Middlesbrough and others have, we're not really going to be serious contenders. We're not going to recoup. He's not going to recoup that money with a Premier League run. It's a strange dilemma, isn't it? We seem to go around in circles with this.
Yeah, that's right. You do have to question if we really do want to get promoted. I know,
Mm.
I know that sounds a weird thing, but I think a club that's serious about promotion, you actually look to strengthen your squad in January, and we've actually gone and weakened it.
Well, with weekends.
Well, we must be the only club in history that's actually going for the championship playoffs, and we're actually looking weaker when the transfer window opens midway through it than we were going into it. We've got diabolical injuries. Yeah, we just mentioned two there.
Ryan
So,
Leonard was warming up last week. Showed not, wasn't on the
yeah,
bench or anywhere near the side
yeah,
today. So,
exactly. And it just shows how weak that squad is. Yeah, we've got a lad in the under 23s, Abdul Malik.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
who apparently scored 20 goals this season. I was reading. Is it 20 or was it
He's done
15?
very well. He's a regular scorer. I don't
Yeah,
keep track of them, but
and
yeah.
he's nowhere near the first team. Come on, we're not scoring goals. We've just let Benicophobe go,
Yeah.
so put him in there.
I guess
Yeah,
the wage bill will look a little bit lighter now that Bennick's gone to Dubai, and to some level, I suppose, Hayden Muller has joined Dundalk, who incidentally, listeners, Dundalk in Ireland will play in the Europa Conference League. So I suppose he would regard that as, as a bonus for his season, Hayden Muller.
but it's
Isaac,
about 9 steps down now, isn't it?
yeah.
Let's be honest. It's non-league football, isn't it?
I'm trying to put a spin on it here, listeners. But I suppose my point being, the wage bill is lessened, lighter. But if you carry that logic through, you can have a very light wage bill and play a team of kids, couldn't you? We've got to, at some point, we're either going to make a move or we're not. And I agree, it's either got to be someone that we've been tracking or courting. We're hearing names, but don't know how much truth there is to this Benny kid at Rotherham. Jamal Lowe, I don't know. I think isn't he a regular name that people talk about, and he doesn't seem to like the idea of coming down Millwall. I don't know why, but we'll see. Today, very disappointing result. I think that's probably about as much as we can say about the result today.
Yeah, but to
Cardiff,
be honest, Nick, well, after last week, after we went out the FA Cup,
yeah,
I actually thought that going out the FA Cup, I didn't watch the game. I had no interest in the FA Cup this season, to be quite honest. I thought that it might do us a bit of good, that it'd be one less distraction for us, that possibly, Yeah, we know what Millwall's like. Yeah, we can't do two things, can we? Yeah, we can't multitask. We couldn't have
We
an
don't
FA
seem to
Cup
be
run,
able to. No.
yeah, and then be in a position to challenge in the league. So I think it had to be one or the other. And we went out, and I thought it'd be a good thing. But you look at that today, and you're wondering, was it a good thing?
I don't
You
know.
know,
I'm
standing
always a
by
bit. There is this theory that you take the pressure off your season, or you focus on the league and all this kind of thing. And so no FA Cup run, and certainly last week's performance was very half-hearted. Neil, it was half-hearted on a pre-season friendly level, like we were playing at Dartford in the heat of July or something.
Yeah, that one was better today, though, was it? Let's be honest. Yeah, but that was only three-quarter hearted. If the other one was half-hearted,
Today we never retained possession. We gave them too much respect, which I think is probably one of the great criticisms. If you're going to, this season is yet to finish, so we don't want to be too pessimistic. We don't know where we'll finish, and we don't know how it'll play out. But I think if I was going to be critical of Gary Rowett's reign generally, I suppose it's that thing of Mill have built a reputation of being a side that doesn't. That doesn't take reputation particularly seriously. Doesn't show the opponents the respect and get stuck in. But we don't seem to be a team like that anymore. Certainly away from home. We'll see how it finishes. I think two performances in a week that have been fairly flat leaves me feeling very flat, and I dare say the fans out there listening, or the 505 that went up there again. It's I know we're bottom of the away team league table in terms of attendance. I sometimes think it's a miracle we get anyone showing up for these games. I mean, the idea of travelling the length of the country to go to Middlesbrough to watch a half-hearted show at times like we saw today, I don't know. I don't know what the club expects out of people. I think it's miraculous we get anyone at the game, personally.
and we've got a very key game coming up next week, haven't we, against Cardiff?
Cardiff away. I was just going to say
Cardiff.
that. Yeah, I mean, today's performance doesn't fill me with much anticipation. I think they were leading earlier on. I haven't seen the results as Neil and I are speaking, so I don't know how they did. I'll have a quick look whilst.
Yeah, they drew 1-1 against Wigan at home.
Finish one each. Okay.
Yeah,
but
they've
that's
just
never.
had the transfer embargo lifted, which is a bad thing, isn't it? Because they're likely to go out and at least try and sign a couple of players this week.
One each against Wigan. There we are. We'll see.
Yeah, it would be good to see Marlon Romeo not again.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, but he can go down on one knee and wave his fist in the air, can't he? Like normal, and he'll get dog's abuse. And
oh dear. There we are.
It just that. Yeah, I don't know. We're in what, 6th, 7th, 8th position? Are we?
We're 9th. We're eighth. I'm just looking at the league table. Eighth. Yeah, I thought we were in 9th.
But it feels like. It just feels a bit deflating after today. To be honest, I wasn't really looking forward to coming on and doing this.
It's quite hard.
Happy to have just to have bloody sat down and just pulled a bloody cover over my head and forgot about the rest of the weekend. To be honest,
as listeners know, I never like recording straight after the game. It's always quite hard to muster up, especially in the aftermath of a fairly limp loss like today, listeners. But I'm out tonight. I'm out tomorrow, so I might drown my sorrows in alcohol and get Mrs. Hart to drive me home tonight, Neil. I think that's probably the best route forward for the night. We'll see how the rest of the month goes transfer wise. We do need to find some pizzazz. We need something. We need some pace, power, and athleticism, because we didn't show enough of that today by any stretch, and we certainly didn't see anything of that nature last week.
No, the season's actually in danger of drifting, I think, Nick. I think that if you look at it, I know that we've mentioned for weeks that Millwall are going to have these highs and the lows, aren't they? And we're just like my mood and things like that. It just seems that we're going to have extreme highs and then we're going to have weeks of lows. But
dear.
But unless they pull their fingers out.
26 matches in now, Neil. I mean, the next 10 games will define the season. So it's going to take us across the remainder of January and then into Feb. So, today was a big game. All we keep doing is, I don't know about you, every morning I refresh my Twitter first thing when I'm half awake to see if there's any rumours or any signings that might be imminent, some exclusive for one of the local journalists. So we could have done with someone out there today. I thought we might have pulled a few stops out to get a signing in for this trip to Middlesbrough, which is always going to be a tough match. Another
And
tough
the
game next
worrying
week.
thing is, though, you actually look at the table and you look at the transfer window, and we've suddenly dropped behind Norwich and West Brom. Norwich have just changed their manager. West Brom, I think, did it not so long ago as well, didn't they? But they're actually getting parachute payments.
They do.
So if they want to go out and they want to strengthen, then we're playing catch up on them, aren't we? And I know Blackburn had their asses handed to them, but it just seems a little bit ominous. I think the top two are well out of our reach now, aren't they?
They're looking further and further out of sight now.
We're certainly top place. I think we're 20 points behind Burnley, aren't we? So we can forget them, and they're starting to pull a little bit away from Sheffield United. So we're actually playing for what, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it's just worrying that we're up against teams with parachute payments that can go out and they can spend money, and we seem extremely reluctant to go out and spend any money.
Yeah,
for whatever reason. I think if we were serious about maintaining in and around the playoffs, he would surely have done something about our deficiencies by now. We do need another striker. We need somebody in midfield. And of course, if Creswell goes, that's going to leave a hole in defence. I don't know. Can he call back the
Mitchell?
lad Mitchell at St Johnston?
You'd have thought, reading between the lines online, if Creswell is Leeds were talking about recalling because he's not getting game time at Millwall. Well, if that's the case, and Gary Rowett knows that's the case, then you'd have thought that recalling Alex Mitchell from St Johnston or wherever he is in Scotland would be logical. But like so many things with Gary Rowett, the logic of some of his decision making isn't always apparent. He doesn't have to explain himself, but the results generally, if the results do the talking, then he doesn't have to explain himself. It's when they don't do the talking that questions get asked. I don't know. But
it's extremely worrying that Creswell didn't get on today. So I'm wondering if something has been said. But then again, you look at it, he's here. He might not be here on Monday, but he's here today. So you use him today, don't you? You worry about Monday on Monday. You don't sit there sulking, we're not going to have him. So I'd like to know his thinking behind it, to be quite frank. And
he'll probably give us a bombardment of management speak and football cliche mixed with manager speak.
Bullshit, won't it? Yeah, but no.
I mean, the interesting thing was there was this talk of an American group that were over last week. I don't know whether it's true or not, listeners. It was in one of the. Looking at the font of the report, somebody stuck it on Twitter. It looked like it might have been the Sun, might have been the Daily Mirror. Hard to tell. So I don't know who said the original story. But you do wonder what John's long-term plan is. If it is just to keep on, as he has done ever since 2007, to keep paying out in the region of 10 to 13 million-ish and keep us ticking over, that's one thing. But to get any more than that, you're going to have to gamble at the high rollers table, and that's always been our problem. It seems to be our problem at the moment, Neil. So I don't know.
Yeah, we've always said what's John Berylson's exit strategy.
Yeah.
Well, is it make a load of money on the regeneration?
I mean, that looks as far away as ever it does. I mean,
but that looks like to be a pipe dream. But that looks to be the the property equivalent of us playing in the Premier League, really, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, you have a wander around Bermondsey. I was over the other day, and it looks exactly the same as it ever did. You know, I mean, for an area that was supposed to be transformed by the new Bermondsey master plan, it's barely changed in years. There's 1 or 2 blocks of flats up the road, and the Cliftonville Tavern's gone. That's about as far as it's ever changed in my time. You know. Anyway,
And
we'll
they
see.
served a load of notice on the garages, didn't they? At one time,
They're still there. They're still working.
So what was all of this fuss about? Honestly,
Oh dear, I don't know.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder why John Berylson is still putting 12, 13 million pound in.
It'd probably undo all of this. All of it if they make some masterstroke signing of some highly talented player that we hadn't seen on our radar this week, then we'll have to withdraw all these comments. But at the moment, in the aftermath of a very wishy-washy, drab 1-0 loss at Middlesbrough, it's quite hard to see.
But there will be the usual suspects out there that will be pointing stuff out. With those people that hang around on message boards and things like that, and on Twitter, who think they know best and just
depends what your expectations are. I mean, I think a repeat theme, maybe even an unspoken theme, Neil, between you and I, both fairly long in the tooth. We've both seen Millwall over many, many years. Some measure of historical perspective to bring to it. For us to be chugging along mid championship, mid second tier, and look upwards with the possibility of a run that maybe or maybe doesn't come to pass is actually a very, very good performance for the FIFA 23 generation. Unless you're succeeding in inverted commas, you're not really you're not playing football. Do you know what I mean? It's a difference of viewpoint, I think, and certainly from that perspective, you wonder whether John does want to roll the dice. So it's all easy for us to say; it's not our money, but
Nick, I think it's the flirtation that kills you. Yeah, we're flirting in and around the top 6, aren't we? Yeah,
hinting that we could do better.
It's just like you won't know this because you're happily married to Mrs. H. Yeah,
I wouldn't know whatever he's going to come up with now. I wouldn't know about it.
It's like when you're scrolling through Tinder and you see somebody that's quite nice, and you read the profile and you swipe the right way, and then you're waiting for her. Yeah,
I once peered over Harry's shoulder. He was on Tinder. This was going back a couple of years. I'm probably disclosing too much info, but I'd never seen Tinder, listeners. So I was looking over his shoulder, and I said, "Well, what do you do? How do you kind of press a like, and if they like you, you got a date or something?"
Basically, it was a
We
bit.
need players. That's what we need on our transfer market.
It was a bit like this with Millwall, isn't it? We're flirting in and around the playoffs. We're just waiting for the match, aren't we? The other, and you're probably right.
Dear.
There's probably a striker out there. There's probably a footballer equivalent to Tinder.
Has had a rough time in their relationships. Wants to find true love.
Well, Aldo's actually he's hitting loads and loads and loads of likes, and he's just waiting for the football.
For the return like to come back.
But then it's a match, and then you can discuss her. But that's not bad.
Oh dear. No.
That's not a bad. That's not a bad business proposal, that is it? A football Tinder that matches players and clubs.
Dear. This conversation's turned surreal, listeners.
It's got them both smiling.
Absolutely. Oh dear. I'm going to say thank you to Neil. I've got a curry to go out to, listeners, so I'm going to call love you all, Tinder love you all, and leave you all now. I'll be back after the break with any voicemails that have been sent in to me, but I want to say thank you, Neil, for picking up the pieces on a very difficult post-match call. Never easy. So big thank you to you, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, mate. And we'll be back, I guess, on Friday, won't we?
Friday, with a bit more of a measured, intellectual, measured conversation. Until then, bye for now.
Hello? So, walking away from the Riverside, this is James Burt, Millwall halfway line. Well, pretty buoyant local supporters here as I walk back through, but very, very good game, I thought. I thought we were beaten and not unfairly so at the end of the day. I thought we disappointing to obviously lose, but I thought actually not a bad Millwall performance. I have to say, I thought probably Middlesbrough just shaded it, but it was a good game. But at the end of the day, I thought it really highlighted the fact that we don't have anything on the bench really, and that we desperately need to reinforce this squad. I mean, I know that it's perhaps slightly delusional to think that it's going to be Millwall going up, but if we're going to get anywhere near the top of this division, we've got to have some quality off the bench. We've got to have some players that can come on and change the game. And as well as we did today, and I thought actually we did do well, actually we just didn't have that quality. And big couple of weeks for the Lions ahead, I think, because we desperately need to recruit some extra players. But anyway, come on you Lions, not a bad day out, even though obviously a disappointing defeat.
Nick, Matt Richards, after watching the game today, it's disappointing to lose 1-0, but I think we just need to put it into context really. They're on a really good run, Borough. They've got some really good players. They're all not all over us, but they're high press into us in the first half. Didn't let us play, didn't let us settle on the ball. And when we got the ball, it'd be some sloppy passing. But they didn't create loads of chances. We were hanging on towards the end of the first half. We had that chance for Zian. He probably should have done better, really. It wasn't a great shot. He could have buried it. But, yeah, so 0-0 half-time. But we would probably be being satisfied, but knowing that we needed to create more. But then second half, obviously they scored a goal. Murray got caught out. Got a bit of luck, I guess, because Cooper was injured. I thought Long could have done a bit better. It wasn't in the corner, the shot. 1-0 up, and then you kind of worried really that there might be 2 or 3. But after that, I thought we came into it without really creating anything clear cut. Zian, I thought if he'd gone down, because that was a terrible challenge, I thought it could have been a penalty, or it would have been a penalty. Although, to be fair, the referee probably wouldn't give it because he wasn't giving us anything. Huffed and puffed. Half chances. Bradshaw had a header. Saville, half chance. Esse came on and did well again, like he did against Sheffield United. But at the end of it, it's frustrating because did I think we're going to get anything out of the game beforehand? Probably not. Actually, I think we may have nicked something, and that's just frustrating, really. But I think the most important game is next week. We really want to get something from next week. Cardiff struggling today. They drew again at home. Won at home for ages. I fancy us. If we can just take our chances next week, then we'll get something from that. But I think the key thing is, as everybody's saying, and it's right, is that the squad's weak. Bennett come off the bench today. He's just not been at it this season. He's not the player he has been in the last couple of years. We need forwards, or we need a forward at least, to replace or to come on for Bradshaw. We need wingers, and the defence needs reinforcement as well, really. Have we got enough money for that? Will we get the players in? Don't know, but the season hangs on it, really, because you can see how tight it is at the top. We'll drop down, to 8th now? It's going to be like that now for the rest of the season, so it's really important we strengthen and important we get something next week. So, disappointing, always disappointing to lose, but it's how we move on from that now, which is going to be absolutely critical. So, we go again next week. Come on, you Lions.
Hi, Nick. Jim Hack here, just with a few observations on today's game. Not as disappointed as I was last week, although the result was disappointing. I think it's obvious for everybody now that the goals that come down that left-hand side through the left full-back channel We just give so many of them away that it's an obvious trick, if you like, for the opposition to play onto. And we seem to be an easy touch there. Hopefully we'll get it sorted at some point. I think when Styles went back there, it looked a little bit more livelier, the defending, but at the same time we were sort of chasing the game at that point, so you don't know what Middlesbrough were doing so much. Result, very disappointing, but it wasn't lack of effort this week. It really was. We were under the cosh first half. Probably got away with it slightly because we didn't have too much of a forward pattern going. The one thing that when we did have the break with Styles, got the ball onto his heel. What a shame, we were 4-on-1, and it was the one opportunity we had in the first half, really. Second half, I thought once they scored, they seemed to sort of be quite happy with that, and we then came more into the game. I think when Saville came on, Styles went to left back, we looked a little bit more livelier. Esse come on, and again, he looks promising. I think he's still a boy in a man's game, really, but I think when he's got the ball, he wants to use it, he wants to do things positive. So yeah, very happy with him. And overall, the performance a lot better. They were one of the best teams we're going to be playing this season. I think they're on a roll. They're really buying into what Carrick's trying to do with them, and I can see them in the playoffs quite comfortably. I think for us, even though we've dropped down a few places, the opportunity is still there. If we can play with the same desire, possibly a little bit more luck, then hopefully we'll continue with our forward progress. I would say today the referee I thought was woeful. The 3 bookings we got were all bookings for not really anything that wasn't going on during the game. I thought he was pretty woeful for us, and he didn't really have that many big decisions to make, but the ones he did make when it came to us, I think he really caught us out, and I think he was disappointing. But overall, we took the loss. It was 1-0. I did think before the game that, having watched last week's performance and the lack of desire, I was hoping that it would be better today, and it was. And I think the team can rightly come away thinking we might, with a bit of luck, have got a little bit more. But overall, probably 1-0 was the right result. But I'm still positive looking at that today, and hopefully we'll push on forward. So come on, you Lions.
Hi Nick, John Rankin here, just calling in with some post-match thoughts on the loss up at the Riverside against Middlesbrough. Having had a bit of a chance to reflect on the match, I think let's get the negatives out of the way firstly. Obviously we lost, but I think tactically that was very poor game management from Gary Rowett, and I think given what they were supposed to do, or the obvious brief that the players had, I think they can hold their heads up very high. We, from the word go, we were sitting back. We had the one-man lone token press on with Tom Bradshaw, which, is about as much use as a chocolate teapot, to be honest. And we were just sitting in deep, waiting for Middlesbrough, and then trying to hit them on the break. You could argue that it worked in the first half. They didn't score, but they came very, very close indeed. And we did have a few chances on the break. But I would question whether that's the right way for these type of players to be set up, because there are one or two individuals who I think defensively struggle against teams of this quality. With regard to Middlesbrough, you can see the influence that Michael Carrick's had. This was a different team that came to the Den and lost to us 2-1 at the Den earlier in the season. I was reminded of how Michael Carrick used to play for Manchester United, and he was, a sort of CDM, midfielder, defensive nature, but what he did do was play the ball along the ground and very accurately pass the ball around, and that's what Middlesbrough did. And our midfield, I question the midfield that Gary Rowett chose. He partnered Callum Styles with Billy Mitchell, which I think was a mistake. He should have put Mitchell and Saville out there in the midfield from word go, and in actual fact late on in the second half he did put Saville on there. I always thought that midfield two there would struggle. Callum Styles is a great player, but he's a left-sided player who likes to get wide. and I don't think his challenging is as good as George Saville. So I think there were crucial errors of judgment here by the gaffer, I've got to say. And I think given that, how can you possibly have a go at the Millwall players for doing what they did? You know, they played to their brief, and I thought they gave absolutely everything. There's one or two players out there which struggle at this level, I think, and I'm not going to name names, but obviously we're lacking that quality up front. I'm not talking about number 10 or midfield, I'm talking about an outright number 9. We have got deficiencies there, and we've got one or maybe two, I think one main deficiency defensively. And I think everyone could see that again today. Thought George Long played well. He can't be blamed at all for the Middlesbrough goal because the guy placed it well and George Long was completely outstretched, you know, and his body positioning was as good as it could be. And he did make some tremendous saves in the first half. He made a brilliant defender's save, really, from Akbom. When he was put through, he came right out and saved right, and, you know, blocked him sort of right on the edge of the penalty area, which I thought was fantastic because the guy was through on goal. So there's a lot of positives, but Gary Rowett, if you listen to AchtungMillwall, mate, you got that one wrong, boy. You should have played the same way as we played against Watford. Okay, we might have gone down, you know, it might have been a 3-2 defeat, or, you know, something of that nature. But to go up there and sit back and try and be tight defensively when you know you've got certain weaknesses at the back, and then try and come out and nick a goal on the break, might work against other teams. It worked against Coventry last season and a few teams like that. But against this outfit, I think you've got to fight fire with fire. You can't fight their fire with ice, to use your terminology. Anyway, over and out. So that's my complete drubbing of you, Gary Rowett. Go back to the drawing board, think about the players you've got, and play in a more appropriate style for the type of team that you're playing against. And to the players, well done. I think you're putting a very good shift. And come on, you Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.
Huge thank you to all of the chaps with the voicemails. Big thank you also to Neil Fissler for fitting in with my social life plans. It's Sunday morning, listeners, and I thought we'd just take a cold light of day, few moments to think about that rather disappointing show, for me, very disappointing show yesterday up at the Riverside Stadium in Middlesbrough. Big hats off to the 505 people that made that long journey for what, for me, was a very wishy-washy performance. I'm just reading the post-match comments that Gary Rowett made with the London News Online with Dan Marsh. Shout out to Dan Marsh. This is speaking to Mill TV, and I won't pay that £5 charge that they want for Mill TV to listen to the manager's post-match comments. Listeners, I think we should get that, at least a clip of it on YouTube for nothing. But anyway, speaking to Dan after the game, the report goes that Rowett was satisfied with elements of Mill's performance against Middlesbrough, but he conceded that he was disappointed that his side didn't show more belief during the match. I find it kind of odd because, you know, going into yesterday's game, that was a big match, listeners. That was the 5th placed side versus the 6th placed side, which was us. Going hard for, or should have been, for a place to compete for the Premier League, the very top table of English football and all the riches that comes with that. We didn't really look like that was, at any stage in the game, that was really what we were driving hard for. Neil made that point in the post-match call that I did with him yesterday, and I didn't see it. Gary Rowett's cliche city, of course. He says here, I think this is a tough place to come. Cliche time. I'm going to have to get a cliche bell. He says to Mill TV, the Middlesbrough have been on a fabulous run under Michael Carrick. He's done a really good job, and you can feel the buzz around the place. But we've got our game plan really spot on in the first half. We frustrated them and made it very difficult to play through us. Now, I didn't see that. I don't know anyone that did see the game, whether they also felt that we'd played well, because I thought we were clinging on for grim death. I've just watched the post-match YouTube highlights, and Jules Long did really well. I don't know if we mentioned that yesterday in the immediate conversation straight after the game with Neil, but I thought Jules Long made a couple of very good saves, critical saves, through the course of the first half. Yes, we had moments where we could have done better, which we didn't, so could have, should have, I'm thinking if my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle, or maybe not so much these days, but I don't get these kinds of comments. You can't stand there and start slagging the players off, I get that. But I don't know, maybe the managers see things or say they see things that I don't. He says we had a few good half chances. I didn't have many half chances. Muzzer, the nickname time now. Muzzer has one from a set piece where he just needs to glance it and gets too much on it. Stylesy, we have a 4-on-1 break. Yes, we did, and it clipped the back of his heel and went nowhere. So I'm not sure you can claim that as a good performance, listeners. I don't know how you see it. I thought in the second half, the goal was very avoidable. Murray Wallace had a mare yesterday, and I know that he's an honest man, honest player, and he will be disappointed with his performance. I don't think, personally, I didn't see much from a few players. I've seen Vogelsammer getting some stick online from yesterday. I thought Danny Mack didn't play terribly well yesterday, listeners. I thought that we made a decent Middlesbrough side look a much better side than they needed to be, but we didn't seem to have much drive, and we certainly didn't bring any flair or ability onto the ball. The question keeps coming back to the one that Neil and I have kicked around yesterday. Do we look like promotion contenders? We're clearly still in 8th position somehow, thanks to the other teams' failure to perform. But it's still hard to see this squad going the distance at the moment. It remains to be seen how the transfer window pans out, but unless we're going to be doing something dramatic soon, I think that the season is in danger of these kinds of average showings. That's two fairly bland, performances in the week now. That nondescript game against Sheffield United last week at home, 2-0 loss, and yesterday's 1-0 loss at Middlesbrough when I didn't really see enough. Gary Rowett sees different things, and he's got to work with the players. So I understand why he says some of these things, but it does stick in the throat somewhat. Just reading through some of the post-match reaction on Twitter. Alex Lee, opinion varies. I think opinion varies. Alex Lee says, "No shame in a 1-0 loss away to a good side. Limited options to affect the game highlighted, though." That's going to be a repeat theme of these messages, listeners. Essay promising on the ball. He looks like a quality player. Romain Essay. Young, no fear, a positive. In my opinion, says Alex, Cooper going off immediately and probably means we probably don't concede the goal. And I've got to agree. I said that speaking to Neil yesterday. They stuck around with a clearly injured Jake Cooper for a crucial period after after he took the knock, and that's when we conceded the goal. The goal was not down to Jake Cooper. The goal was down to poor defending by Murray Wallace. Names. Accountability, I think it's called. Jack Clark went up there, gutting, as we are really battling, and we're so good at winning the ball back. We're also just really good at losing it again. We didn't keep possession very well, Jack, I do agree. Hutch and Cooper having the absolute games of their lives. Agree with that. They were solid rocks. Murray and the ref, on the other hand, leaves 3 dots. Referee was poor, but we can't blame referees. We're going to get that. He was a homer, as they call them. But we get, how many years have we all been going to the den, listeners? How many years you been going? I know it's always been so over my 50 plus, and I bet it is your X number, whatever it is. Tyler Podmore asks why Fleming didn't go down on that run into the box. Could have claimed the penalty, could have shot. He chose to pass it inside the Honeyman where it all went away. Lots of could haves there, isn't there? Joe Zampa says SA has done more in 30 seconds since coming on than Vogelsammer and Honeyman have done in the combined 80 odd minutes. I've seen a few criticisms of Vogelsammer. We do love to have a boo boy. Obviously no Tyler Bury out there yesterday, so he wasn't available for slagging. I don't know. Vogelsammer has been unlucky in some of the chances, hit the woodwork. I don't know how many times now, 3-4 times. It wasn't a good day generally yesterday, and he was part of that, so I do accept that. I still think there's something in there that will get something from him, whether that should be as a mainstay striker, dear Tom Bradshaw runs and runs, but could we do better with Vogelsammer there? I don't know. Or should we be looking for something different, something new, which I think probably would be the choice of most Millwall fans? I don't know. Millwall Dolbs says you don't win these kinds of fixtures with fuck all up top, says Dolbs. I think you're right, Dolbs. Forward, offensively yesterday, let's use the Americanism, offensively, we didn't look much at all. Let's not get carried away, says Dolbs. We haven't been bashed up here. We just need a couple of attacking players in. Still time in the window. Still in a good position in the league. Keep the faith, optimism there from Mill Dolbs. Yes, that's true. We do need to make some moves in the transfer market, though, if we're going to challenge. Because I don't see it at the moment, Dolbs. To be honest, I think we'll bob around, but we won't, we won't be contenders as it stands, in my opinion. Which is still not a bad performance from Millwall. I mean, I keep making these historical points, and I do get it must be frustrating for younger listeners, but historically we're still in a very good position. And we're really doing quite well compared with the bulk of my Millwall supporting life. I know that's frustrating to hear, though. Millwall Tube. Definitely not gutted, he says. No, definitely not gutted, he's missed it. That's a different take. Definitely not gutted, I missed this one, he says. No idea why it took so long to bring Esse on. The guy was on for 10 minutes and did more than anyone else. Romain Esse, real hot talent. The boy looks like he's got the X factor. Let's hope we can keep him. Dawn Turley. Why do we keep playing the long ball, asks Dawn. It's because we lack the imagination and the players to unlock a defence, I think, Dawn. Why are we not trying Vogie up top? He's in his natural position, she asks. Surely Saville should be starting. Frustrating game today and highlights how badly we need signings. And I'd also, it's interesting this morning just looking at the YouTube highlights package that gets posted Sunday morning. I hadn't seen that yesterday. I was speaking immediately after the game, which is always a bit of a hot potato. But I just don't think we threatened enough for a sixth placed at the time side to be serious. You cannot be serious unless we make some signings anyway. There we are. Huge thank you to everyone for contributing to the show. It's been a bit of a hodgepodge today because I'm out and about yesterday and today, but we'll be back in the week, I hope, with further content on your favourite, I hope, Millwall podcast channel. Achtung Millwall. Till the next edition, listeners. Arrivederci Millwall. Let's all move on to Cardiff next week. Bye for now.
Achtung Millwall.